Okay, now finally we get to have some fun. We've set up our working space. We're in the right resolution, but now we have a gray space behind our sketch that gives us kind of a tabletop to move our torn out pages of different high res reference. So I'm going to start from the background of my composite materials to the foreground. So I'm going to start with the sky. So this was my favorite sky. I'm just going to drag it on, and then when it comes in, it will come in as a smart object. Just letting Photopea catch up with me a little bit. So immediately I'm going to use the transform tools. If I lose them, I can always get them back with Control T. And I'm just going to widen this out to overlap and fill in where that sky is going to be. And if I'm ever unsure, I can take the opacity down so I can see how it affects my sketch. Okay, so that's my base layer. This is the only layer that I do not need to cut out from because it's behind everything else. So I'm going to right click it and then rasterize it. And that will allow me to change colors and change those pixels directly as I need to. And I can always hit Control T in Photopea, and I can hold down Shift and I can stretch it. Especially things like sky elements, background elements, galaxies in the far background. It's okay if they soften out a little bit by growing them. It's really the middle ground that needs to be the sharpest in focus in a believable landscape. Okay, next, I have the beat sun up in the sky, right? So I have my preferred one. I bring it in. It's already plenty large enough, so I might shrink it down. And now, instead of trying to place it right away, I'm just going to make it a little bit larger than it needs to be, according to my sketch. And then I'm just going to move it off to the side and hit return for now. So I'm just collecting my different pages so I can see them all in one place. Next, it's going to be the Broccoli Hills. I wanted both of these. Just kind of move them off to the side. That's basically the right size. Depends how I decide to use it. And then this other one. This one I know I need to tilt. It's basically the right size. And place it, hit return. Those are good. Now what's next? It's going to be the Swiss chard jungle. Kind of goes in front of the Broccoli Mountains. That's about the right size. And then in front of that, we have the mushrooms. First, these chanterelles, that lovely kind of ochre color that's going to transition, I'm hoping, into that jungle. And that's a little big, so I might shrink it a little. And because vegetables are organic, I can do things like hold down Shift and squish it, and it will still be very believable. Or extend it, or even right click and warp it, all while it's still a smart object. You know, to maybe get a little bit more movement up and down from it. Wavy hills. And then move that off to the side using the move tool. And then this is the trickier thing, the mushroom lake. That's going to go kind of embed itself into those chanterelles. Like that. Maybe I want to flip it horizontally. So what happened is I accidentally moved the center of the transform box. And once you do that, it will just do your transformations around that new center that you placed. But you can just set that center back if that happens. I can stretch it a little bit. I can even warp it a little. It's about the right size. Maybe flatten it out so it feels like a slightly sharper angle that we're looking at it on. Place that. What's next? I have all the cabbage stuff. So I was going to use this foreground blossom, maybe in the bottom right corner, kind of like that. I was going to play around with maybe using some of these at the bottom edge for the color, and maybe this grouping here, which is already about the right size. Place that. Too many things. I have this kale. Do I want to use that? That will be kind of a nice background thing to fill in, so it's not just all broccoli all the time. So that's fine. But because I did that, I want to move that maybe down with the broccoli. And it's nice because when you bring them in, it will actually give you the name of the file. And sometimes the name of the file can be very helpful for your organization. So it shows me kale and broccoli, and I'll nest it right between the two broccoli layers. And then I have the sky cabbage, this ornamental cabbage. And I want to layer that right here, maybe even make it a little bit smaller. It's got water droplets and lots of pixel content to it. Place that, but then move that back so it's just right on top of my sky layer. Maybe take its resolution down a little bit, or opacity down a little bit. Go back to the top, these last things I brought in, and more middle ground elements. That's going to work well to transition into the lake. And I'll show you how we cut them out soon, but that's gonna help. So I'll move that just on top of the chanterelles. And maybe in front of the soup. And then, let's see, we just need the celery trees. This was my main one. I'm going to basically keep it at its full size. And it's okay if your landscape even gets a little bit bigger than your sketch. Mine might actually end up getting a little bit wider so I can kind of fit some of these elements in that I want. Because I need the celery tree to be at least that tall so that it kind of overlaps with other things. And then some of these littler ones I can shrink right away. Now notice when it's a PNG element from Pixabay, it's really nice because you don't have to do anything. It's already cut out and you already have the rights to use it. But these other ones, I'll have to cut them out. So for now, I might move them off to the side. I'm just trying to size them right. And then there's this, which I was thinking I might need at the base, but that's a lot of the same kind of color and texture, even though I can change the color. So I think instead, I'm not going to use that for now. Instead, I'm going to try to get the base of the tree with this. So you see, I'm using most of my working space just to look at my references. It's ambitious. It's definitely more than 5, but it's what I think I'll need. All right, so now I'm going to update by hitting Command S and save my Photoshop file. And now this file, which was 90 megabytes, is now 100 and almost 30. No, is 648 megabytes. So we're using a lot of memory here. So now that's about the most memory we'll use on this project. And now we're going to start taking pixels away, reducing memory. So it's good to save. And even if this is as far as you get before Wednesday's class, this is a pretty good place to be. But this next step is where I want you to be by next class. And that's where we're going to, if this was a regular collage, we have our sketch, we have our elements, our pages. We need to now cut from our pages roughly with some chunky scissors and then size and place them all onto our sketch. And then that will let us crop a little bit closer to it. So we start that from the background. So what I'm going to do is start with what I had already started with the sky, just kind of placing it and sizing it. And then on top of the sky was this element, sizing it and placing it. I want it to reach all the way down to my implied horizon line of the Broccoli Hills, which is right there. And both of those, I don't need to cut out or crop at all, but what I will do is I will rasterize them as I place them, right? And if you notice, if I turn off my sketch, and then turn on the background to be 100%, just with opacity, I can start blending these things together to make the kind of sky I might want. That's kind of my own original invention. So that's what the background sky will look like, that I have a beat sun hanging in. It's got those kind of variations to it. Looks like clouds, but it's really rice paper and cabbage. But while I'm building, it's a good idea to keep your opacities pretty low so you can see your sketch underneath, see your working space. Next, the beat. Because I'm using the move tool and I have auto select layer, all I have to do is click on it and I can move it in. But I need to cut it out. And in order to cut things out, we're going to use the lasso tool like we've used before when we were doing the exercise 1, the cartoon line art jumble. And before I cut out, what I want to do is turn off my guides, because otherwise the lasso is going to catch on the guides and it will follow the guide even when I don't want it to, which can make it so I can accidentally cut into the thing I'm trying to cut out. It almost did it there. So to turn off your guides, you simply hit Command semicolon to toggle them on and off. If you have it off, then you can just use your lasso without it sticking anywhere and just roughly cut around the thing you want, leaving some overlap. Then you're going to hit Command J. You can't delete because it's not rasterized. So if you hit Command J after using the lasso to select the thing you want cut out, it will cut it out for you and it will rasterize it for you on a new layer. Then you just have to turn off the smart layer underneath. And since we want to save memory, we're just going to delete that smart layer underneath. And if we ever need it again, we just go to our references and we can bring it in. Because smart layers are not altered. They're just sized. But now, because this is rasterized, I can use Control T, up, I'm on the wrong layer, on my beat. And I can take away pixels from it, cut it out more cleanly, make it a little bit rounder. And I hope by the end of the day, I'll show you how we can do like lighting and coloring alterations for each of these. But right now, I just want a rough cut. And this is all I need for the moment. If I want to maybe shrink it a little bit, Control T. That happened because I had something still selected. So Command D to deselect. Or on your machine to deselect, just go to Select, and it might be Control D to deselect. It will always show you the shortcut, or you can just use these direct commands here. And if